Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Anne and today I'm doing a book unhaul. Since we all want to leave 2020 behind us, I thought it would be fun to cleanse myself of some of the books that I've racked up that I really don't want to keep anymore. So over here I've got a pile of 25 books that I want to get rid of. Most of these haven't been on my shelves for a while, they've sat over there in a pile. That's been driving me a little bit crazy, but I've just not filmed this book unhaul yet and I've added a few more books to it right now. If you've watched my end of year book haul, I think it was that video, you know that my book buying habits have changed quite a bit in 2020 and I've also kind of changed what I want to put on my shelves. So I've become much more selective all round. I've been buying fewer books and I've been more selective in the books that I buy, and I'm no longer keeping everything I've read on my shelves. Most of these books in this pile over here, the books that I'm getting rid of, are books that I have read and just didn't enjoy very much, and I think someone else will get better use out of them. I'm going to bring these books to a charity shop here in town once they open again, because all stores are closed right now, and until then I'm just going to put them in a bag under my bed or somewhere out of sight. Not that they bother me that much, but it just feels good to finally get this over and done with and just get rid of these books. So without further ado, I'm now going to show you all the books that I'm getting rid of in order to completely cleanse myself of 2020 or something like that. First on the list is a book I read in 2019 and it's Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is probably one of the first little bit controversial books on this list. I know a lot of people love this book and I think the second book is already out as well. I'm not going to read it because I was mostly just very annoyed by this book. I think I gave it 2 stars and I did completely finish it, but I'm not sure why, because I really didn't enjoy it very much. I think I hoped it would get better and I was very disappointed because I love the Illuminae files, the other sci-fi series by these authors, but this just wasn't it for me. But it's a very beautiful book and I think for a lot of people this would just be a very fun read, so I hope someone else will get greater use out of it. Next up is Tell Me How You Really Feel by Amina May Safi. I was very disappointed that I was disappointed by this book because I was really looking forward to it. This was one of the first books I read in 2020. It's kind of an enemies to lovers story about 2 girls in high school. It has some Gilmore Girls references in it, which was fun, but overall these characters just annoyed me. I didn't really enjoy the setting. I think I've come to the conclusion that I'm kind of over the high school setting, or it has to be done very well, but this just couldn't really capture my attention and I was glad when it was over, so that's a bummer. But it is a very pretty hardback, so again, someone else will probably enjoy it more than I did. Next up we've got The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. I read this in 2019 before the film came out. It was an okay read. I didn't dislike this one as much as the other 2 I just mentioned. I enjoyed it. It was fine. I think I gave it 3 stars. Ooh, I'm going to sneeze. Nope. Just got watery eyes now, which is great. Anyway, I gave this 3 stars. It was fine. I didn't really enjoy the insta-love in this, but I did enjoy the exploration of different cultures and immigration and things like that. So it was alright, but I'm not going to reread it. I don't have any special memories about this book, so I'm going to unhaul it. Then there's another potential controversial book, and that's Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I also read this one in 2019. I was very hyped about it when it came out, but I just didn't proceed to read it. I think it came out in 2017. Oh, 2018. So I didn't wait that long. But it was just kind of underwhelming to me. I really liked that it was based on West African folklore and culture. I really enjoyed that, but other than that it just felt like an average YA fantasy story, one that I've read a lot, and it just felt kind of predictable. I wasn't really that into the characters either, so when I finished this, I thought, well, it was fine. Another 3-star read, but I'm not going to continue this series. But I'm very glad that this exists because I really like that there's African culture represented in YA fantasy and the entire cast of characters is black because of that, of course. And there's also explorations of racism within it and slavery, and that's very important. Just the overall fantasy arc just wasn't really for me. Next up we've got a book that I haven't read, and that's Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertelli. I really enjoyed Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda and also the other one that she wrote, The Upside of Unrequited. I read The Upside of Unrequited last year and I really enjoyed it, but for some reason I'm just no longer interested in Leah on the Offbeat. This is not really a sequel to Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, but kind of a companion novel. It's about one of the characters from Simon. But Leah was never really my favorite character. I didn't really think she was very interesting, so I'm not really sure why I bought this. And I've also heard that there's some harmful rhetoric concerning bisexuality in here that's not really addressed properly. I can't really speak to that because 1, I'm not bisexual, and 2, I haven't read the book, but because of that I'm just no longer interested in reading it, so it's going on the Unhaul pile. Then there's a book that to many of you who've been watching this channel for a while won't be a surprise, and that's The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. I think it's a surprise that this was still on my shelf, that I haven't unhauled this earlier. I really didn't like this book, and if you want to know why, I'm going to leave the link to my blog in the description because I wrote a full-length review on this and I've talked about it a lot on this channel. But in a nutshell, this promised to be a story from the perspective of the women in the Trojan War, and it really wasn't, and I was very angry at it for that. Another controversial book I'm unhauling is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, but I'm not unhauling this because I didn't like it, I'm unhauling it because I've got another copy of it. When I graduated university, my best friend gave me this copy as a gift, as a graduation gift, but then a few years later I bought the box set of The Lord of the Rings, which also included another copy of The Hobbit, and I like this book, but I didn't like it so much that I want 2 copies of it, so I'm keeping the gift, of course, and I'm getting rid of the book that was part of the box set. The next thing I'm unhauling is a series, and this is a very popular series, and it's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series by Douglas Adams. I received these books as a gift in 2011, I think, and I read the first book once, or 1.5 times actually, because I read it, thought it was alright, and didn't proceed to read the rest of the series, and then I thought, well, maybe if I try again, like 5, 6, 7 years later, I decided to try it again on audiobook. I thought maybe I'll enjoy it more, and maybe I'll want to continue the rest of the series, and I really did want to like this because I know it's very popular, I know a lot of people think it's very funny, and it's a classic, but for some reason it just didn't click with me. I didn't think it was that funny, I didn't think it was that entertaining, I was just a little bit bored. I've kept it on my shelves for a very long time, thinking maybe one day I'll read it, but I've come to the conclusion that that won't happen, and someone else will probably enjoy them more. So they're going. Then there's Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I read this years ago and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good mystery. I enjoyed the film as well, but I'm never going to reread it. I don't really particularly like the cover. It isn't a book that sparks joy when I see it on my bookshelves. So it's just time to make space for some new books, and this is going. The same is true in a sense for The Rosie Project by Graham Simpson. I read this in 2013, I think, maybe 2014, and I really enjoyed this. I gave it 5 stars, I remember. I thought it was so good, so funny, and then the sequel came out a couple of years later and I absolutely hated it. I didn't like it. I thought it was very bad representation. I thought they were making fun of someone with Asperger's syndrome or autism, and I didn't enjoy that at all. I thought this book did the representation very well, was very kind and thoughtful while also being funny. And I've heard from other people and people who've more knowledge of this than I do that they thought that as well. But the second book just felt painful to me and felt like they were going for the laughs. I unhauled that one a couple of years ago, and then I saw this sitting on my shelf and it's just kind of ruined by the second book, so I'm getting rid of this as well. Next up is a book that I really wanted to like, but I actually DNF'd. And this is the first book in years that I DNF'd, but I just couldn't get through it, and that was Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder by Joanne Fluke. This is the first in a series of, I think, 26 or 27 books about murders. There's Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder, I think we've got Strawberry Shortcake Murder, Blueberry Muffin Murder, Lemon Meringue Pie Murder, all kinds of baking murders. And this was recommended to me by someone, and I thought it sounded perfect because I like cozy mysteries and I really like baking. You'll know that if you follow my blog as well, which is Books, Baking and Blogging. Baking is my thing, reading is my thing, so I thought this is the perfect combination. But it really wasn't. It was just very boring and cringy and painful, and there were lots of stereotypes about women having to get married and annoying mothers pushing them to do so, and it just, I think I got like 100 pages in, something like that, and then I gave up. Next up are a few books that I read a couple of years ago and that I enjoyed at the time, but they just didn't really stand out. I don't have any special memories of them. Sometimes I keep books because I really like the covers, but these covers are nothing special to me either. The first one is The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. I read this in 2013, I think. I enjoyed it, but I can't even really tell you anymore what it's about. I think a guy who dies and then wakes in the afterlife and he meets 5 people. I remember enjoying it, but clearly it didn't really stand out. Then there's My Sister's Keeper by Jodie Picoult. Picoult? I have no idea. I read this, I enjoyed it, I had my heart broken by it. This is the only Jodie Picoult book I've read, and after reading this I didn't really feel the inclination to pick up more of her books. And this isn't a particularly gorgeous cover. It's been on my shelves for years now, and now it's going to go. Then there's Us by David Nichols. This is the author of One Day, which is a book that I really enjoyed and really want to reread. One Day is still on my shelves, but this one is going to go because although I did enjoy it, I think, I don't remember a single thing happening in this book. If it weren't for the little post-it thingies here, I'd even doubt whether or not I'd actually read this because I really don't remember it. So obviously this one didn't stand out either, and someone else will probably enjoy it more. Then there's We Need to Talk About Kevin by Lionel Shriver, which has a lot of post-its because I read this for class at university. I want to say I enjoyed this, but that's not really the right phrase because this is about a boy who murders some of his classmates, fellow students at a high school, because he goes on a mass murder spree. And it's about his mother. I think it's told through the eyes of his mother as she deals with the aftermath of that and the guilt. And it talks about his childhood, how he was raised, what he was like when he was born. And it's all just very, I'm not sure how to describe it. It's just kind of awful. The mother is an awful person. The boy is an awful person as well. I think it's a very good book and I think I'm glad I read it, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm definitely not going to reread it, so it's gonna go. Then there's a book that I read years and years ago, and when I came across it at a bookstore I worked at a couple of years ago, I thought it will be fun to reread that. Maybe I one day will, and I didn't. And I'm talking about The Bridget Jones Diaries by Helen Fielding. I really enjoy the movies with Renee Zellweger and Hugh Grant and Colin Firth. I love those films. And I remember liking the books when I read them. I think I was in high school. And I thought it would be fun to reread this, but I really never looked at this book again after buying it. And it takes up a lot of space because it's an omnibus. So I think it's time for this to go. Last and definitely least, there are 4 books that I'm getting rid of. And they are the Cormoran Strike books by Robert Galbraith. I'm going to put these down because they're heavy, but I'm going to talk about them for a little bit. Maybe I'll just hold up the first one because that's also the lightest. So, the Cormoran Strike books by Robert Galbraith. I really enjoyed these books. I've read 4 of them. I think this year a 5th came out, but after that we already had the J.K. Rowling extravaganza, scandal, tragedy, whatever you want to call it. For those of you who don't know, Robert Galbraith is J.K. Rowling's pen name, and these books are mystery books, crime novels, and I think they're really good. I really enjoyed them, but I'm not going to read them again. I don't want to look at them again, and I'm definitely not going to read more of the books, because I think that the hateful rhetoric that J.K. Rowling still spews and has been spewing for a while now about transgender people is dangerous and despicable, and I don't want anything to do with it anymore. So I'm not going to buy any more of her books. I'm not going to talk about her again on this channel. I don't want to talk about her again on my blog or on my Instagram or anywhere, because I don't want to give her any more attention. For those of you wondering, I am going to keep my Harry Potter books. I'm standing right in front of them. They're over here. I am going to keep them, but I think I'm going to stand over here a lot so you don't have to look at them if they're triggering for you, because I know these books have become triggering for some people, which I completely understand. To me, my love for the Harry Potter books is not something that I can just cast away, and I'm not going to do that. I haven't read the books again since J.K. Rowling revealed herself as a despicable human being. I think I'm going to read them again. I haven't really felt the inclination because of all this, and my memory of them has become a little bit tainted, I have to admit. But I'm not going to get rid of them completely. I'm just not going to engage with the new content that comes out. I am not going to talk about them anymore, like I said. But for me, Harry Potter will always be special. It shaped me as a person. I think it shaped me as a good person. I'm very sad that J.K. Rowling turned out to be the way she is. And if you're unfamiliar with everything that happened, I recommend Googling it. Anyway, that's it for my book Unhaul. Those were the 25, I think, books that I'm going to get rid of. I'm going to put them in a bag a little later and put them in a corner somewhere. And that's it, that's my cleanse of 2020. I'm very happy this new year has started. Some terrible things have happened already, but still I'm being hopeful. I'm feeling good, and I hope you are too. Please comment down below if you've read any of these books, or tell me some books that you want to unhaul, if you're in the habit of unhauling, or if you keep all the books that you read. Please like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos. And have a wonderful day. Bye!